Hey guys, so remember we need to watch this video so we're ready on Wednesday. We're going to talk about solving proportion word problems and doing that by using a part-part or part-part total chart. So these are charts that are going to be really helpful to do proportion word problems whenever there's like multiple parts and we're really trying to figure out what part we need. It's very, 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 very good strategy to use. So we're going to go ahead and look at the first word problem. So if you would pause the video and read this to yourself now. So you should have already read it. If we read here, we're looking for what the parts and what the total are. So as we read this, we're going to talk about a couple of things. So the first thing that we need to decide is what are the two parts. So it says 3 out of every 5 students made an A. So one of those parts needs to be what? Hopefully you said making an A. So one of those parts is just the kids who made A's. So the next part we're going to have to think about. But we know the total is obviously going to be, if we're talking about the kids that made A, the total is going to represent just how many kids were there. So here in their total, we're going to say this is the number of students. So these are the two parts that are actually given to us in this first sentence. 3 out of every 5 students made an A. So how many made an A? Hopefully you said 3. 3 students made an A. We're going to fill that in there. How many total students were there? Well, it's 3 out of every 5. So altogether there should be 5 students. Now this could have been written differently. Instead of said 3 students make an A for every 5 students that do not make an A. That would have been different. This is just 3 out of every 5. So our other part just needs to be, well, if you're not making an A, what did you do? If you didn't make an A, well, you just not an A. So anything else. We could say the B's, C's, D's, E's, F's, whatever, but I'm just going to put not A's. So if there were 3 students that made an A and 5 total students, how many students did not make an A? Perfect, 2. So this is my part total. A's, not A's, and the total number of students. And we have the first part of this set up, 3, 2, and 5. Now let's get to the question part. Here we notice that 78 students made an A. So that's not how many made an A in this first part of our graph. We said 3 students made an A here. So on the second part of our part total chart, 78 students made an A. That needs to be an A's, not A's, or total number of students. Good. A's. So our chart's all filled out based on the information we have in here. We have no other numbers to fill out. Now we've got to decide what we can fill out for not A's or for the total number of students. So depending on which one you want to answer, you can set up a different proportion. So let's try to answer this one first, the total number of students. If I were answering that, my proportion would say there's 3 students who made A's for a total of 5. So 3 with 5 because I'm comparing A's to total. And we want to set up a proportion to solve for how many total students there are when 78 students made an A. So there's a bunch of different ways you could solve that. You should know how to solve proportions in what ways. I'm going to use the scale factor. 3 times 26 actually gets me 78. And so I'd do 5 times 26 to get x. And if you solve that out, which I'm not going to do for you because I know you know how to multiply and I don't want to insult your intelligence, 5 times 26 would end up getting you 130. So that means that I can go over here and fill in 130 for the total number of students. Then to find out how many students did not make an A, if that were the question, I could either set up a proportion using 3 to 2 the way 78 is to x, or I could just say, well then the total number of students minus the number of students that made A's should be here. That would be 52 students. Very nice. So go ahead and pause the video if you need to. Think about this before we go on to the next example. So in this next example, we have the 8th grade girls basketball team winning and losing and having the total. So what I do want you to do for this one is to pause the video completely. And when you get back to the video, you're going to have all the answers filled out. I want you to try to do this one on your own. I do want to warn you, you're going to have some decimal numbers for your parts here, which doesn't really make sense, but your answer is correct. So pause the video, do this one, and on the next